Good morning and good afternoon to our merry Marvelites. Welcome to a not so special Marvel movie talk special where we talk about the not so special Morbius. As always, I am Christian Bladt. We'll be joined by some of our regular friends in a moment, but we have a very special friend in every sense of the word. The one, the only, Xia Anderson Bastille Day. You know her. You tolerate her on the Chip Chipperson show. You love her on her OnlyFans. You love her on her show on Qualified Experts. And there are other shows that she shows up on, but those are your bread and butter. Those are your like every week show. Oh my gosh, it's Eric Nagel with our friend Eric Nagel. Imagine if he saw this intro and even this part where I forgot his show for a second.
He's never going to ask you to host.
That'd be the last time
again.
I'm ever on. But here's the thing: I remembered. You know, he didn't have to like text me. Like, oh, what about the? You know. I remembered. So those are your regular shows. Unqualified Experts. That's on your YouTube channel. And you did a great pilot with Ian Fidance over on Compound Media.
Yes.
And I like you, but I love Ian. So you know that made it. That's really the only reason I watched.
Watched.
Yeah. And of course, I said Unqualified Experts, the Chip Chipperson show. I mean, I think that's where most people know you from. Fun episode with you actually know Karen Fee, and I just enjoy her from afar.
Karen is really funny.
Very funny.
I actually got to see her stand up for the first time in I think November, something like that. Oh, she's so funny. She's fucking like really hilarious. I didn't know what to expect because she's funny on podcasts, but you never know. Sometimes it doesn't translate. And her act is really good. I think she did like 30 minutes or something like that before Jim. And then we got to see Jim, who's, of course, fucking hilarious. So,
of course, you're talking about the Jim Norton, who I believe the way that we say this is that he is very good friends with Chip Chipperson.
He is very good friends with Doug Bell.
And Doug Bell, yeah.
Good old Boogadoo.
So Xia, welcome back to our Marvel show. We love having you. I'm sorry. It's almost like when you run into someone at a funeral, when the reason you're talking to them is so that you can chat about a bad movie.
Yes, that's exactly what this is. But I'm going to tell you, I'm kind of looking forward to this because I've talked a little bit about it on my Twitch streams, but I haven't gotten too into it. And I've had a couple people tweet at me that they actually liked it. There are some people that like it, I guess, but I'm very curious as to what it is that they liked.
Well, turning into a Count from a Vampire Bat is our friend Count Eric Connor. And you get relegated to the bottom row this week. Sorry, you know how it is. But in any case, Eric, we were just talking that Xia has been contacted by people who liked Morbius. I don't think you're one of them. I think I got a text from you during the movie, actually.
During the movie?
Yeah, like 20 minutes in, right? Yeah.
I was far enough back that I wasn't going to bother anyone behind me. Yeah. It was also, I went on I think I went on a Sunday. So by then the word had traveled.
Oh, by then everybody knew. Yeah.
It was pretty empty when we went as well. I think there were maybe 4 other people in the entire theater, and we went on, I think, a Thursday or a Friday, and it was like a week after it came out, but still it was bad. And I knew at that point, I also knew how bad it was because Christian texted me immediately after he had seen it and was like, Morbius is so terrible. You're going to hate it. So I kind of already went in knowing.
I was so excited for you to see it. And we will get to the end credit scenes, but that's what I was just like, you got to stay for them both. I can't wait to talk to you about them. And, Xia, I try not to take advantage of our very questionable friendship. I don't understand why you tolerate me. I try not to ask you to come on my shows too often, but this was the one. I actually said to you, I would so much rather talk to you about how bad Morbius was than be yet another person to be like, oh, your Doctor Strange is really great. Who cares? You know, let's really dig into the terribleness of it. So you walked into it, Xia, prepared, not just for me, the world prepared you, correct?
The world prepared me. And sometimes that can go different ways. Like, I know that we've talked about this on previous shows, how we actually enjoyed the first Venom movie. The second one's a different story, but we actually enjoyed the first Venom movie more than most people. So I did kind of go into it thinking, okay, everybody's saying this is bad. Although when you said it was bad.
We used to do a show with someone who thought less of us because we liked the Venom movie.
Because we liked the Venom movie. I don't know. The first one was fun. The second one I have a lot of problems with, but the first one was just, it was a fun time. I enjoyed it. But Anyway, so I went into it kind of expecting, you know what, maybe it won't be as bad as people are saying. Maybe because they're saying it so bad, I'll enjoy it a little bit more because I'm going in anticipating it being horrible. Boy, was that not true. I think it was about 30 to 40 minutes in. I was like, oh God. Even the first 20 minutes, it's still kind of building. So I'm like, okay, this could go somewhere, maybe. And then it doesn't. And then nothing happens in the movie. It's one of the most boring movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, and that was really Eric. I mean, if I was smart, I would have done a screen grab of your text to me. But that's basically what the 20-minute in text at what really was, that like nothing was happening. And it's not like a movie that's so bad you can have fun with the badness of it.
No,
there are a couple of
those
those moments.
The
Room. We can definitely isolate a couple of things that might fit that, but and honestly, Jared Leto is not bad in this movie.
No, he's not. The acting was not my problem with any of it.
No, and in fact, I think Z is going to agree with me. And I told you this before you saw it. The silver lining is that it's fun to get to see Matt Smith in a role where he seems to be having fun. Movie's not good. His character's also not great, but it's like it's so different than being Doctor Who. Eric, sort of, you were prepped, not just from me, again, also the world, and you seeing it, not on the first day it was out, where you were able to go like, oh, maybe. And you brought your son, right?
I found the screen grab.
Oh, what does it say? 45 minutes into Morbius, do they ever leave the fucking lab? Yeah, that was it. That's right.
The ducking lab. Christian just goes quack, quack.
Quack, quack. Right. Oh, but Michael, of course, sent me his...
Well, that's our thumbnail for this episode is the Jared Leto on the red carpet, which is so much better than the actual movie.
I would have been up for that, by the way. Like if
he looked like that,
Morbius.
Yes. If he'd gone with like if he'd gone with the outfit of the keyboard player from the River Bottom Nightmare Band and Emma Daughter's Jug Band Christmas, and maybe that's a little bit too overly specific for this crowd.
I got that reference.
No, I was gonna say, but not for but Xia, your whole life is just surrounded by people. You work with a guy who can't go 20 minutes without making a reference to MASH. So
that's true. I'm getting caught up on all these old, so I get these references. I've watched Goodfellas, I've watched Godfather 1 and 2, Scarface is next, then Casino, and then Clockwork Orange. I've got a list.
Those are all great. Yeah, those are all great. Yeah, exactly.
And so you already saw The Room, it sounds like. So I'd say there's not much else you need.
That's true. That's really my whole life could just be The Room, and I'd be happy.
Oh, how does it teach you everything about dating, about life, about the computer business.
Yeah. Also about how to deal with cancer in the family. It just never comes up again.
It just never comes up again.
And then
so Eric, and how old is your son? Is your son 12 that you brought? I
13. Yeah.
13. And was he able to have fun with it? Because at 13, I watched some really terrible movies. I mean, I think I was 12 when the bad Punisher movie came out with Dolph Lundgren. I knew it was bad, but I loved seeing the Punisher on screen. Small TV screen because it didn't come out in the theaters. But so did your son go like, I'm 13 and I know this is garbage?
This is the thing I'm working on with him is you're allowed to hate a movie, like that at some he hasn't gotten there yet. My 11-year-old, he's a constant eye rolling, one-liner spouting kid. The 13-year-old was like, I didn't like it as much as Venom or this, and he listed every movie ever made. Basically, I'm like, so maybe you didn't like this. I was like, all right, God bless. You're gonna have a long, happy life if you like everything, I suppose. But,
Dominicus Saxon jumps in with something I hadn't considered. Wonder Woman 84 was so much better. It's hard to go there because my expectations were so high for that because the first one was good. I don't know if it's better, and we're gonna play a fun game with Morbius at the end, and on our show, Marvel Movie Talk, the regular episode this week, we're going to talk to our friend Jeff about ranking this movie amongst some others. We might have to put Wonder Woman 84 on the list. I mean, it's tough. This is a tough watch, and it's not. It's when a team wins a championship, they always say it's a team effort. This was a team failure. This was really like, although not Jared Leto. I mean, there wasn't, he's listed like an executive producer, but that's just so that they could pay him more money. That's for budget reasons. That's exactly why that is. So he didn't really have that much to do with it. And, maybe he made some things better. I think his portrayal of Dr. Morbius before and after are both fine. It works in the framework of this world they create. Matt Smith, it's mostly fun. Jared Harris, God, how many times do we have to watch that man get killed on screen?
He dies everything. I
mean, there's once it's by his own hand. So that's
he's becoming the new Sean Bean.
The new Sean Bean, yes. Yes.
But and again, Dominica Saxon bringing us some wisdom. The makeup team was worse than the ones who worked on Lost Boys.
Lost Boys.
Well, those were practical. That's practical makeup. And it probably did look better. I thought Matt Smith looked okay. I don't think he looked amazing, but I'm like, all right, this is a guy who's like newly figuring out his vampire ways. It didn't bother me. Xia, is that part of the problem, that like the effects aren't so distractingly bad where you're like, oh my God, like we can laugh at it's just like, no, they're just not great, but they're also like, it's not awful enough to be like fun.
Where the effects bothered me, it was less with where they turn into vampire face. That was like, it wasn't great, but it was okay. Where it bothered me was the fight scenes. That's where the CGI started to bother me. I was like, oh, this is just, because they do some really great CGI in movies, but it kind of reminded me of when they remade Hellboy, where some of the CGI was really good and some of it was hot fucking garbage. And then as I was watching the credits roll, I realized it's because they had different studios in different countries working on it.
Which, by the way,
they haven't talked to each other ever.
Yeah, I remember, Xia, you were so hyped up for Hellboy, and then you went to see it. And because I talked to you, probably the day you saw it, and your reaction is exactly why I've never seen it. I was just like, oh no, they're clearly, thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yeah. Anytime. I'm glad I could help.
Yeah, exactly.
But it kind of reminded me of parts of that CGI where you're like, well, this is so, when CGI is CGI, but there's still where it's believable versus not believable. And they did a horrible job of making it believable in Morbius. It was awful.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Eric, in terms of like the filmmaking? It's not, again, it's not Plan 9 from Outer Space where somebody goes like this to the, somebody goes right behind them in the spaceship and it sounds like cardboard. It's not, we don't have that. We don't get those laughs. There were no laughs in Morbiusville that day.
Yeah, you're right. It has struck out. I completely agree. And then I think the issue is too, it's funny, like thinking in terms of, I guess, the filmmaking side of it. It was like, this is an $80 million movie. Now I realize that's pretty small compared to Avengers Endgame, but really, like, there's a lot you can do with $80 million. If they gave anyone in this room $80 million, we would be like, okay, let's spend it. And Jared Leto, I mean, he doesn't get that big a price tag yet. So, and I don't think it's going to change after this one. So in essence, there's so much of this movie that they do. It felt like almost like kind of the Roger Corman logic of like, all right, let's just put him in a lab and just put a bunch of crap up in the lab. And that was my big note. It's like, when are they ever going to leave? And so much of it, that's where it felt cheap. Like the CGI, I agree, it was kind of headache inducing. And those fight scenes really showed, if you will, like the puppet strings of it. It just did. They were poorly shot, and thus the bad effects you can't compensate. So it was a 1-2 punch. Much less they were boring too. Those fights, but really, to me, like where I noticed the sort of lack of sort of razzmatazz, as Christian would call it, is really in the fact that so much of this is like they're in a lab, now they're in a barge, and like so much of this is like him staring at a effing monitor. Like, I mean, imagine if you watch Spider-Man and a good 45 minutes was about the DNA of a spider that was this.
Yes, and they could have, instead of doing exactly. Oh my god, I didn't even think about it in that terms. Instead of doing that, because they were trying to give you these payoffs, but they didn't do the work to make you feel those emotional moments at all. So I felt nothing when what's her face died. I was like, okay, I don't give a shit, because they didn't do the work to make anyone care. So instead of doing that, they could have taken that time and built characters and built relationships and made you give a shit about anyone in the movie, because you just don't. You just don't.
Yeah,
it was very frustrating.
Yeah. No, and I mean, there's there's moments of character stuff where you're like, oh, this could be interesting, like the flashback to when they flash back to little kids, and sort of the idea that he always calls the next kid Milo, because it's like, it doesn't matter, you'll just be replaced by somebody else and I'll still be here. It's like, okay, that's that's some solid writing. They kind of don't really do anything with it. It's like, some of the setup is good. What were you going to say, Eric?
No, I was just going to talk about how terrifying apparently England is. That it's like, groups of kids go around beating up kids who are walking around in crutches. I was
like,
what the fuck? It was like the scariest place I've ever seen on film. I'm like, I'm never going back to England.
Like, I know, just imagine if poor Tiny Tim had gone down the wrong alleyway.
I have another right. Albert Twist is all of a sudden like a slasher film. Like, this is horrifying. And that idea that I know kids can be cruel. I mean, I work with Christian and Michael Shirley. Like, I get picked on all the time. But the truth is, like, that was the moment I'm just like, what? And then even when the adult came in, when Jared Harris comes in to break it up, he doesn't even say anything to the other kids. Like, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't do that. Like, it's like, oh, you rapscallions.
What if we told you about going outside, boy?
Yeah, right? Don't go outside when school's out, and also, because every school kid will murder you.
Yeah, why is the headmaster, head doctor, also calling this kid Milo? He knows it's not his name.
Oh,
right? He goes along in the chat.
Sorry, hang on one second. What did you say about the chat?
Oh, apparently naked, high def. Hey, I'm waiting on 18 plus stream.
Yeah, Eric will always make sure that we get to see the spam in the chat. We want to make sure that everybody gets to see it.
It's not spam, Christian.
Those are our number one fans here. But here, I did want to share this from Tim Bruce, but I wanted to really like Morbius. Any chance Morbius gets another chance in a Spider-Man movie? That sort of ties into what we'll talk about at the end. But look, I think depending on what their contract with Jared Leto is, I would assume that I doubt that they signed him for only one movie. So if they want him, they would put him in like Sinister Six or something, obviously. But I don't know. I mean, look, you got to have big names if you open a movie like that. And I think the fact that people didn't like this movie, I don't think it matters. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Xia? Do you think that this is? I know we're sort of jumping ahead, but that's fine when it's this movie. What do you think about the idea of seeing him again, since Tim had mentioned it in the chat?
I don't know if there's the movie did so badly that they might abandon that plan, unless it's something that they already had written in stone, that they're like, no, this is what we're going to do regardless of how good or bad things do. But I wouldn't mind seeing the character again if it's in something decent, because again, I thought Jared Leto is a good actor. I think he's a good actor. I thought it was fine. That wasn't my issue with it. So if they're going to do something good with the character, then yeah, great. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all going to be bad, because this was bad. But I don't know. Yeah.
Let's put it this way, Eric. I'm not clamoring to see him again.
Yeah, I'm not excited.
If he were to show up, especially if he shows up in an actual Spider-Man movie, but I think it's more likely a Sony-verse movie, a Venom-verse movie, if you will.
Yeah.
Like if he's in Venom 3, I'll be like, all right, cool. Let's see that. Okay, he's gonna fight Carnage and Venom or something. I don't know. But I think if you do that, don't even try to make the story make sense. Just really turn into this kid and just go, here's some nonsense. Don't worry about why they're fighting. They're just going to fight for 90 minutes. And I'll be like, great, that's fine. What do you think, though, about seeing Jared Leto as Michael Morbius again, Eric?
I think I would rather see him as House of Gucci again in the Spider-Verse, by the way, as that character.
That's fair.
I think a way they could do the Sinister Six is really just to go Suicide Squad. Get them together, put them on some ridiculous mission just to watch these actors just sort of bounce off each other for a couple hours. And then maybe a bunch of them get slaughtered in the process. Like, I'd be up for that, but that's about it. Like, I don't see
sort of like a Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right. Yeah.
Exactly,
and so in
yeah.
that's the issue here is like, in some ways, like they're trying to play it almost like too straight. I mean, that was maybe the biggest problem of all. This thing had no personality. Like, thinking
Oh my God, yeah.
in terms of Marvel consistently finding different personality for its different parts of the franchise, and here it just felt kind of like Venom but less fun, and and really like so slogged through a very dull plot. I mean, like you were saying before, Zia, like nothing really happened. Like, this is almost like a short film that you could tell the story in 20 minutes, really an episode of a half-hour comedy, even, like, without any laughs.
The Michael Morbius program, spelled PROGRAMME. This could be the first episode, and then go on from there. And
like a WandaVision.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like
This is definitely
that.
like a WandaVision. And I mean, there's I think that's really sort of the best case scenario for him going forward. But there was a question that Daniel had that I thought was interesting. When did they film most of Morbius? Was it made during the pandemic? Oh no, this movie was done in 2019. And Zia, you and I were very excited when we first saw the trailers because we were convinced it was going to be good. We
really thought that New Mutants. Do you remember how wrong we were, Christian?
This and New Mutants. I was like, you know what? And look, I was not as excited for Black Widow. These trailers all came out around the same time, and I'm like, no, Morbius is going to be different and interesting. I was wrong. New Mutants, I like those characters. I want to see them on the screen. Technically, I was right. I do like those characters, and I saw some of them on screen. But I mean, obviously, if you have to, Black Widow was a much more watchable movie. Than
it was a much more watchable movie. Another thing that I forgot to bring up that drove me fucking crazy with the movie, I was talking about it when I left the theater. Why did they have the 2 FBI agents there? There was no reason for them to be in that movie whatsoever. And I think they were supposed to be there as like comic effect, but it wasn't. None of it was funny.
Yeah, I mean, people know Tyrese and the other guy, Al Madrigal. His name. He's a comedian. Yeah, he's great. He has some moments of levity in this, but I'm not the first person to point this out. But you must feel like no one in the production has ever known a cat or has ever owned a cat or known anyone who owned a cat, because the idea that you would shake a cat's litter box and be like, well, must not be here.
Like, that's how you get the cat.
Yeah, like that's how you do it. Yeah, it's like,
eat your shit, kitty.
Yeah, come on. Hey, you want a shit burger? And I was just like, I mean, what a bad attention to detail. Yeah, look, this movie had some reshoots for sure. We're gonna talk about a couple of them a little later, but it's been done for a while. And look, legitimately, they didn't know what to do with it because, apart from just scrapping it and starting over, there wasn't really that much they could do, and it wasn't bad enough to be a disaster. I mean, it is definitely not the 2015 Fantastic Four, Fantastic. I mean,
still have not seen that, by the way. I
wouldn't
want to watch it for I that's what everybody keeps saying, but at this point I kind of want to watch it just to see for myself, because I know it's bad. Know it's bad.
Yeah,
it's got like what 8% on Rotten Tomatoes or something
like that. Yeah,
comical like that, and people have talked about it so much.
It's joyless, and there's no chemistry amongst a cast that has some great actors in it. But it just didn't work. And and I was.
It takes a unique talent to cause every good actor to give their worst performance.
Agreed.
That's something like a magnet for everything terrible about them as performers come out.
And look, for Cape Mara, there's a few others, but it was definitely this.
By the way, I just found out last night that Kate Mara and Rooney Mara are sisters. I'm so dumb.
And they're the granddaughters of the owner of the Giants, the New York Giants, the football team. Yeah.
That I knew because that I knew because Nick wanted to marry Kate Mara only because for that reason, because he's a Giants fan.
I really admire the work of. Yeah, I really admire the work of Frank Underwood and what he did to Kate Mara, but we can turn the page on that, I suppose. I'm specifically talking about in the subway, not the earlier episodes.
When
just
she
realized I had to be.
accidentally
Yeah, I just had to realize I
tripped in
needed
front
to
of
be
the
more
train.
specific when I said that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the way they handled writing out that character, I think that Frank Underwood did us all a great service. But yeah, no, the FBI agents. It's like, are you trying to start like a Hobbs and Shaw like spinoff with those two? Like, if they were existing characters, or it's like, is there a script with those two, with Tyrese and Al Madrigal? So Agent Simon Stroud and Agent Rodriguez are their character names, and yes,
Rodriguez to the CW this fall.
Yeah, right, exactly. Stroud and Rodriguez. Look, could it be worse than this? I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, look, and I think that the actress who plays Martine, Adria Arona, I think that. Yeah, I think she was well cast. I mean, I don't know that I bought their relationship. It didn't. I don't know. It never really felt like
there was no chemistry between the two. I know that's what they were going for,
hey,
but
for people who spend a lot of time in a lab, there sure was no chemistry. We'll be right back after this. No, but I agree with you 100%. It was just like I didn't buy it. And when they're on that freighter, why are those gunmen there? And why does the one guy be like, I don't care what they're doing. I'm paying for the boat. I get to come and dance with the bats. I was just like, I mean, there's no explanation where that makes sense.
They literally put them there because they needed them to die so they could show that he can't control his powers, but they didn't come up with a good reason for it. So they just were like, there's some guys here, but it's okay that he killed them because they're bad guys. So he's still a good guy in good standing. He didn't kill the nurse. It's like,
once they tell us that he didn't kill the nurse.
Yeah.
What was that,
I mean, there's that one. Well, I was going to say, the freighter. So this was the first thing that part of my brain I felt leaking out of my ear a little, because it's okay. I'm Doctor Who. I'm like, hey, Morbius, you need to work in international waters so you can go a few miles off of Long Island, which I think was the logic of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you a freighter filled with mercenaries because I'm super rich and that's all I can afford. Is a massive freighter that is filled with people who will try to kill you very quickly. I mean, I love the logic of like, okay, so they were paid to be on this freighter. They paid probably pretty handsomely. And yet their logic was still, whatever happens at that lab, we're going to shoot at them. Like, and it's like, okay, like that is not a favor. If I'm saying, oh, Christian, I can get you a ride to, Northern Cali, and I hire a serial killer to drive you. I mean, it was the same logic.
Well, it depends on what my choices are. Is it serial killer driving this car, Michael Shirley driving the other car, Xia driving a third car? Depends on then it's like, well, who's the serial killer? What was their predilection?
Are we talking Dexter?
Yeah, look, I'm not Ted Bundy's type, so I would probably be okay with it. I would be all right. But yeah, and it's a lot of like little things like that where you're like, and I don't even think they really do a good job explaining like bringing home the vampire bats and how they were able to do it, but they spent a lot of time trying to explain. Either don't explain it at all, or do the Star Trek where it's like, well, we're gonna have to sit and talk about it for 10 minutes, and I'm like, great, just actually make sure that I walk out of this, like Denzel Washington says in Philadelphia, explain it to me like I'm a 3-year-old. Just bring it to me, let me know. And I don't know. So it's I think there is a question that a lot of people are asking. I think this is a good conversation point from Kemi Egan. Which is worse, Jared as Morbius or Jared as the Joker? I will ask you first, Eric.
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, here's the problem. I think both of them are in such terrible stories that I'm not even gonna put it on him. I even thought like his Joker was an interesting angle on the Joker, but the movie around it was such garbage. It was hard to care. I mean, when he showed up for that little piece of Zack Snyder's Justice League, I thought, like, okay, that was kind of
That's the Joker I wanted to see. That's the Joker I want. I was going to bring that up. I thought, sorry, go on. That would have been
because I mean, in the end of it all, I don't put either of these on Jared Leto. I think he's a legit actor. He knows what he's doing. He's weird. He's got that kind of Nick Cage, Chris Walken side to him, which I'm all for. But in the end of it all, it's just like, it doesn't matter who plays it. It could be Anthony Hopkins. You put him in this shit, it's going to be crap. I mean, that's just it.
Which Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Michael Morbius would have really been something. But yeah, and look, I think that with Suicide Squad, I said after I walked out of it, we're talking about the first one, I was like, well, the best part was Batman, the Joker, and Harley Quinn. The best part of that movie is the part that he's in. It is a very specific choice. I don't see him as the Joker in the way that we've seen him like in any other incarnation. But I mean, Cesar Romero with the white face paint over his mustache was better than that. I mean, but it's not like he does that performance in a vacuum. David Ayer clearly liked that, and that's what he wanted. So he probably pushed for more of it. And I mean, that's kind of what happens here. So what do you think, Xia, in terms of, do you see a worse?
Yeah, I'm kind of with both of you guys on this one. I 100% don't put it on Jared Leto either. I know people are like, he's not a good actor. And I disagree. I really think he is. He's had some incredible performances. And if you give him, and every bad actor, I mean, every good actor has bad roles. If you look at, there are roles that, for some reason, I'm forgetting his name. He was in, what is it? The Bad Grandpa movie, not the Jackass one.
You're talking about Robert De Niro?
Yeah, Robert De Niro. He's done bad movies.
It's like the top 20 on his IMDb page, except for maybe The Irishman. But there are a lot of people that they're even like, if you look at like the heyday of De Niro's career, there's going to be some clunkers in there. Sure, everybody takes the script that they're like, oh, this looks like it'll be pretty good, and then just for whatever reason, it doesn't happen when you make it. And
sometimes it just isn't.
Yeah.
So it was, the Joker was, it was a very over the top character. And I didn't really like the direction that they took that particular Joker in, the first original one that they put in. But I really would have liked to have seen more of the Joker that they put in the
Snyder cut of
the Snyder cut. Of Justice League. I would have liked to have seen more of that. I think that could have been really cool. That could have been a really cool direction to go in. And it's also a really hard role to fill after my brain is just dropping everyone's names. Every single person I'm trying to think of their name, my brain's like, no.
So you're thinking of Heath Ledger?
Heath Ledger, thank you. Yeah.
From 10 Things I Hate About You?
Yes, that guy who ended up surprising everyone. Those are hard shoes to fill, so I get it.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, because the idea was like, they're doing Joker again. I mean, did they not know that Jack Nicholson did it? And now it's just like, all right. Yeah. But yeah, it's I don't know. And is there anybody in the chat who watched it and was like, oh, I liked it? Look, I know I follow a couple of people online who I think said they liked it because they felt like, because they didn't hate it, they had to kind of pump it up a little bit because everybody else is talking about it. And
I swear to God, some people just like to be contrarians.
I mean,
I swear to God, I'm like, you didn't really like that movie. You just said you did. I don't believe you.
Yeah, the best thing that I was able to say afterwards is I did not hate every second that I was sitting in the movie theater. It is not the worst movie that I've seen in the movie theater. I saw Battleship in a movie theater. I saw a movie called Loose Cannons in the movie theater with Dan Aykroyd and Gene Hackman. I'm pretty sure that's the worst movie I've ever seen in a movie theater.
I saw this Weekend at Bernie's in the theater, by the way.
You saw the second Weekend at Bernie's.
I did.
Because you saw the first and you were like, I got too many questions. I gotta know more.
I wanted to enter the Bernie verse. I was hoping there'd be lots of spinoffs. There was not.
There still could be. Yeah. Ken has a fantastic point. Look at Rocky and Bullwinkle. Robert De Niro was awful in that, and it was just an awful movie. I mean, that's not his part at all. And Kevin Egan is absolutely making the point. Jared Leto's a great actor. Love him in Dallas Buyers Club. He's fantastic in that. He's great in most things.
Let's not forget Requiem for a Dream.
And I will always say that I like Topher Grace in everything except Spider-Man 3. So that
was not his fault. No. Whoever cast him in that was a moron. Yeah. Of course you're going to take that role if they offer it to you, but that was not for him. That was not a Topher Grace role.
I have to address Sam Whitfield in the chat. I sat through Battleship. Yes.
So did I.
It was a press screening. There was free popcorn. I say to you, good day. That is all you need to know, really. And by the way, that was when I knew that Death on the Nile wasn't going to be good. There was not free popcorn at that press screening, so I was like,
Rude.
Okay. So not only do we spend all this time on the high seas and not get Gal Gadot in a swimsuit, there's also no free popcorn. So
I will skip that on HBO Max. I was looking at that last night.
Yeah, it's HBO Max and Hulu. I saw Rambo Last Blood in the theater. Keith's dad. So our Blackcast regulars are myself, Will Sterling, Jeff Droy. We went and saw that together, and then immediately went to the AfterBuzz studio and talked about it. I'll have to tweet out. I don't know what episode number that is, but we, yeah. I mean that. You know what? That's probably worse than Loose Cannons. Did either of you see the last Rambo movie where he basically takes on every drug lord in Mexico?
Yeah. Yes, I did see that.
Oh my god! It's just like you hadn't made a Rambo movie in so long, like, and you go back for this.
It was the movie Home Alone should have been.
Yeah,
that's how I put it. Like,
yes, I would watch that Home Alone.
I would too, actually. Oh no, he left Kevin. Oh my god, there's so much blood at the house.
What are all these body parts?
My mother.
Oh man. Yeah. So, you scratch your head with a movie like this because they did take the time to do reshoots. It did sit around for so long, and it could have been better. I mean, it's just it's very disheartening that I spent time on it, and that I spent more time watching it than it felt like they spent making it. But
I watched Sonic 2 the next day, and that helped immensely. I know you watched that too last night,
Christian. I saw it last night.
We're here to talk about, but
because Sonic 2 is like the anti Morbius because it's fun, it's silly,
it's just fun.
It's there for laughs and some jokes, and it's fun, and like, hey, remember video game? Look how fun it was. Yeah, great. It's perfect. By the way, I will be appearing tonight on Geekscape at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific, talking about Sonic 2, Moon Knight, and some other stuff I haven't seen yet. But those are the things I have seen.
Moon Knight a lot so far.
Yeah, we've been talking Moon Knight every week on Marvel Movie Talk, which, of course, you can find Wednesdays right here on the Blackcast YouTube channel, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Actually,
and I even went to eBay and to get a Mac tonight.
You got Mac tonight for our audio audience. That is the McDonald's logo from the late 80s, and you actually bought him on eBay. Well, let's talk.
$6,
Sam Whitfield. Sometimes Sam Whitfield and I, we have some political differences. I can see past all of that. He's a great guy. He's a good friend. He didn't hate Last Blood. Sam, you and I are going to have it out sometime. We're going to have to really break that down because I just don't know how to get that around. Keith's dad, do I got a link for Geekscape? I'll tweet it out later. I didn't want to cloud people. I'm having what I like to call a Xia Anderson day. I have more than one media appearance. Sometimes you do like 2 or 3. And sometimes. Yeah. Well, I didn't say every day, but it's not like the days where we would do 5 hours at AfterBuzz together in the same studio.
Yeah, we would go from literally 2 after shows. I talk about this a lot. There was one point where we were doing Marvel Movie News, Marvel TV Weekly, and Marvel News Daily every week together, plus throw in Blackcast, plus throw in the Marvel after shows we were also doing.
Yeah, because we did Punisher. I think Punisher was just us.
Just us, yeah. No one else wanted to do it with us.
And Iron Fist, we had somebody else with us sometimes, but it was usually just us.
It was usually just us.
Yeah, and
Daredevil.
But Daredevil, everybody's like, all right. Yeah. I mean, Punisher was good. I don't know. Look, it was all fun for me. It's a good memory. Some people have memories that are fading as they get older. Ours can be found all over YouTube. you can just look up all of those shows. Yeah,
my memory's trash.
All right, so we talked a little bit about how there were some reshoots for this movie, and none are more egregious than the post-credit scenes. The original trailer has a scene with Michael Keaton in it, and it is clearly set at the jail that Dr. Morbius is being held at. And they have a quick exchange. It's very similar to the exchange that they end up having here. But then this movie sits on the shelf for so long. The 2 release dates ago, it was going to come out in October. So that would have been before No Way Home. So then after No Way Home, they decide like, oh, we need a little bit more time. We're going to tie this movie to No Way Home in an even less plausible way than we tied Venom to No Way Home. And then they had to undo it. And I mean, it was just like, why are you even trying so hard? Xia, your reaction as you watch that unfold, the first, we're just tackling them one at a time. The mid-credit scene.
Which one was that again? Is it bad that I fucking forgotten?
Well, so he just shows up in a jail cell. He says, I hope the food's better in this.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I couldn't figure out. I was like, are they trying to work this in somehow into the actual
because there's like,
MCU?
Oh no, he just showed up here. Yeah.
Yeah, into the actual MCU. But I don't see that happening. I don't think that these are going to be part of the MCU. So I don't know what the point of that was.
So the point was that they took Adrian Toomes out of the MCU and they put him into the Venomverse.
Well, that's a fucking waste.
Yeah, just have him be Adrian Toomes in jail and he could still be the Vulture. You know, it like I would assume that was the original script. Was just like, yeah, he's this guy. You know, he's the Vulture. And maybe Spider-Man exists in this universe and maybe he doesn't. We'll figure it out in another movie. Yeah, so I mean, that is already just implausible, but apparently they didn't get what they wanted, and we'll talk about the second one in a moment. Eric, the Adrian Toomes shows up in, I'm pretty sure it's the same cell that Dr. Morbius had been staying in.
Oh yeah. What I love too is even in this reality, he's just in jail. Like in any reality, he could be anywhere, right? I mean, he could be hanging out in Barbados for all we know, but yet somehow he just winds up in another jail. Yeah. So, that alone was just kind of like wonky and unnecessary. But then that second scene was just garbage because he shows up and it's clearly, for one thing, it's clearly not Michael Keaton that they filmed.
Yeah, the voiceover is that. Yeah, he probably they probably sent him a really fancy, like a microphone that is even fancier than the one I'm holding. You plug it into your cell phone and you send the MP3s to the post-production coordinator, and they match it up. That's probably what happened for that scene.
And yet, that is not even the worst part of that scene.
Nope.
So he shows up still wearing now a full Vulture mask, so you can't see him at all.
Because he was unavailaable because he was filming The Flash, most likely. Yeah.
or doing anything else besides showing up on set that day,
Yeah. He's like, you know what? I'm rewatching the TV series adaptation of Mr. Mom, which I was not a part of, but I feel like I should watch to understand the canon of the story. So no,
I could go to set, or I could go get pokey with my son. I think I'll do that instead. I mean, but then okay, the Morbius shows up. He's driving a sports car for some reason. That alone was awesome. Like suddenly Morbius entered Miami Vice. He comes out, and then he's like, "Yeah, I think I'm here because of Spider-Man." And Morbius, instead of saying who the F is Spider-Man, just like, I'm listening. It's like, okay, wait, so now Morbius just in that drive became a villain now? Because like the whole point of the movie is Morbius is like struggling to keep his humanity amidst all this mesh of gas.
Well,
and then he shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm game. Person I've never met.
Toomes clearly knew how to phrase it because he said some guys like us could do some good. So he is the idea. He's like, well, I'm just going to hope that I was able to look him up on Google. Let's hope he can't look me up on Google. Was there no Adrian Toomes in this universe for him to replace? I don't know any of that.
I'm assuming no, because they didn't know who the fuck he was in the jail cell and they released him because they probably couldn't find any records on him. So I'm guessing.
Right. Yeah. and it's like they're setting up. It's very reminiscent of what I feel the weakest part of Amazing Spider-Man 2 was. The second Andrew Garfield movie was that they were setting up all this stuff, which until now they still haven't done. You know, who remembers BJ Novak as Alistair Smythe, who would be the guy who goes on to create the Spider Slayers? Doesn't matter. They just go ahead and put that in there. And
they could have at least put in Rhino. As you know, I'm all about
you're all about Paul Giamatti as
his single worst performance ever captured on celluloid or digital was his work as Rhino. And I'm like, okay, at least put Rhino in that scene, just running in the background. And then you're then throwing your hand as like, we're going to make a really fun, crappy movie. They don't even do that.
And Eric, just to give you a moment to talk about that is the worst performance we ever got from Paul Giamatti. What would still be the best, which would be the first time you or I ever saw him?
Howard Stern's Private Parts, of course.
Private Parts as Pig Virus. Yes, he's fantastic in that movie. But Amazing Spider-Man 2, they have Felicity Jones as Felicia Hardy, who is somehow Norman Osborn's secretary. It's like all these threads that you watch it and you're like, oh man, they were really planning stuff. So it's like they have these post-credit scenes, which they clearly spent extra money after the movie was done to try and tie it to No Way Home. And look, I mean, that movie made, more than $1 billion. From a business standpoint, I get it, but I don't know, take a little time to write it and come up with something that makes any sense. I've said that I think that, in all these superhero and sci-fi like post-credit scenes, I mean, this is the worst because it's like, oh, they're trying so hard. It's like they are definitely trying to make fetch happen. It's like they are working so hard. And I'm like, you make me not I was all in on Sinister Six. And like I said, I'll see it if he's in it, but you've made me less excited about it. That like, oh, you're going to work this hard for it. I mean,
and also if this is what they're giving us before they give us Sinister Six, I'm scared of what that's going to be.
Right.
It makes me more, the more that we see, the more they keep giving us, the more I'm like, all my excitement is gone for it.
Yeah. It's like going to a wine tasting and you try it and you're ready to spit it out and then go, so the bottle's only $25.
I would like it's a great comparison, Eric, because I would like to spit this movie out. That if there was some way,
the problem, it's still in the mouth.
I can taste the blue fake blood. It's very chalky. It doesn't taste.
Why did he drink? Hold on. You two are very smart folk on this. Why was he drinking the blood that way? Like
because he couldn't wait. He couldn't wait to take it any other way. I mean, it was either going to be orally or as a suppository, and I guess they felt like it worked better if he took it in his. Yeah, but and see, it's again, the more you talk about this movie, the more you remember. There's this scene where Matt Smith goes to visit him in jail, and he like smuggles in a bag of blood.
Yeah, they didn't check him for that. I was like, how were they not like, hey, why the fuck do you have a bag of blood on you? And why are you giving this to him? That's made no sense. It's like,
to me. Hey, did that guy walk in?
Don't bring in weapons, but it didn't say don't bring in spatter.
Yeah. But also it's like, didn't that guy walk in with something that could be a weapon into a prison? Hey, he left his cane. It's fine.
Yeah, they didn't pay any attention to him leaving it. I also didn't believe they were showing, and I'm just going to call him Matt Smith. They were showing Matt Smith as this, great character, best friend. They've been friends for years. He's so good. And then he's immediately this evil son of a bitch. There's no build to that. There's no him discovering anything. They didn't show anything. It's as soon as he's a vampire, he's like, fuck everyone else. Now they're going to die and suffer. They didn't show the journey to that at all.
Eric, I think, go ahead, Eric, make your point. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say also too, one of, there's lots of terrible lines in this, but then he says, I don't like what you've become. And it's like, what, how do you even know what he's become? He's been a vampire for 5 seconds.
He didn't see anything yet.
Yeah, right. It's like saying, Christian, you've really changed since last week.
To be fair, I have. Yeah, I know. It's like you seem different. You look like Peter Capaldi around the eyes. I don't know. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? But anyway, talk about it in terms of like a filmmaking choice, Eric. I'm thinking about this idea that they probably filmed stuff and then they probably cut the development of the Milo character because they really wanted us to think that Morbius killed that nurse. Do you think that might actually have been the choice? One, tighten the runtime a little bit, but it's like, well, let's cut out some story just for this one gag, this one reveal. Do you think that there could have been some of that thinking going into it?
Oh, I like that you call that a gag. Like some innocent nurse is killed, and you're like, "That's a gag." Yeah. I mean, I think
you know what? I've seen that nurse's hard drive. You know, it's okay.
She had it coming.
You know, she's right up there with the mercenaries from the beginning.
Yeah, right. In the world's worst lit hallway of a hospital, where apparently they can't afford to keep the power on, so it's just one light at a time.
That's what it's the same thing. I was like, I've never been in any building where the light turns off and then turns on and then immediately turns off as soon as you walk away. What the fuck was that?
Yeah. And then they did that in Moon Knight. Moon Knight had this. We were talking about that last week. Yeah, Moon Knight has like the same set. So apparently, that's where the storage unit is, the basement of a hospital. You know, I think well, for one thing, I think also too, just Matt Smith really brought it. Like his story was fun. He was interesting. He would have been a really interesting villain too. And so you're right. It's like they really missed it. If they did film those scenes, they missed out on something by not including them. Because like his story was the one that, I mean, like that idea of like you're on the verge of dying, you spend all this money, and now you have this moment where you can actually live. And what that might do to you if then someone says you can't have it. Like I think like that's actually a kind of a legitimate narrative for a villain, and yet you're right, it's like it skipped over the fun stuff, the interesting stuff of him toying with, experimenting with these new powers. And I understand why in terms of the reveal, but the reveal wasn't worth it. Like we obviously knew there were no other villains in this, so obviously it was going to be him, and so there was no big surprise. And so what they lost doesn't compensate at all for what they gained, which was nothing.
Exactly. And they also did that thing where they made it ridiculously easy to guess what happens. As soon as you see that character and he sees the vial, you're like, oh, okay, so he's going to take it and become the villain. And you know that's exactly what's going to happen. So exactly what you said, they didn't gain anything because it wasn't a reveal, and it wasn't even because you knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, there a lot of this is it's very like paint by numbers, or it's more connect the dots. It's like you're like, oh, okay, I see. We're on number 23. Number 24 is literally right there. We're just gonna go ahead and draw a quick line to it. Yeah, look, I can't ever foresee a scenario where I would watch this movie again. And,
no, this is it for me. I'm good.
Yeah. So because of that, before we wrap up, I do want to play a game. As I mentioned, I want to rank the films. I want us to each give our choice. You got to put these in order. Morbius. You can do best to worst. I think it's easier that way because there's some real stinkers in here. And the only reason Fantastic Four from 2015 isn't on here is that Xia hasn't seen it. So we've got Morbius, Venom 2, New Mutants, Wonder Woman 84. Would you like me to go first, since this is my game and you guys could use some more time to think about it?
Yeah, go first. I got to think about my rankings.
So for me, the best movie is Venom. It is very imperfect in a number of ways, but for what it set out to do, I think it's the movie that did the best to accomplish that goal. Second, I would actually put Venom 2 because they sort of at one point threw up their hands and like, so what if it doesn't make sense? It's okay. Isn't it fun to watch Woody Harrelson in a bad wig, but not as bad as the wig he wore at the end of the first one? And as bad as Wonder Woman 84 was, they spent a lot of money on it. And I do like that character. That movie is so bad, though. But also bad is New Mutants. And Xia knows more than anybody how much I wanted to love that movie. I was literally talking about that movie for years, that I really wanted to like it. And I'm sorry to Michael Morbius. You are ranked there last. So, Eric, why don't you give us the order of these films for you?
All right. Well, I'm gonna start last to first.
That's fine. However you want to roll.
Reveal.
Yeah, that's good. That's better broadcasting than I brought to this.
Dead Last would be Fantastic Four, not on the list, but I'm still.
Not on the
It's
list.
kind of
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you turn off your computer and something burned into it. Like
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
Dishonorable mention. Yes.
Yeah, that's still burned in. I'm gonna put Morbius just slightly ahead of it, but really it could tie. It was for all the reasons you just spent an hour listening to. I have nothing to add. Venom. Then I'm putting Venom, which I was I think for you, like you're saying, New Mutants. I love the character of Venom in the comic book because I remember reading when I was a kid reading that was when Venom was created, and I always thought that like that character was so cool that I thought Venom. There's so much you could do with it, and yet that's the movie we got. So that one really hit me big as a disappointment. I have Venom 2 more than Venom. I might be alone in that. I don't care. Carnage. I'll take anything with Woody Harrelson. He elevates everything he's in, and then Wonder Woman 1984, because there was enough in there that like there were moments that actually were pretty good, which some of these films had none of. And then first for me of this list in terms of the one I personally like the best was New Mutants. I didn't go in there with the same expectations you did, Christian, or Zia, it sounds like. I thought it was actually almost like a decent pilot for a TV show. The problem is it's a movie.
Well, no, but it's interesting you say that, Eric. It's interesting you said that because we weren't doing the show together at the time when I saw it, I don't think. And that's exactly what I said about it. It felt like a pilot episode for a New Mutant series that wasn't picked up. So you're like, you've got the pilot episode and they're going to set up some stuff. You're just never going to get the rest of the series. And that, I've seen some pilots like that. There's some pretty good ones out there, just shows that never went for whatever reason. I knew there was a reason I liked you. You put New Mutants at the top of the list. I can't. As much as I think it's because I wanted to like him more. All right, Zia. Here is the big reveal. So we want to see your ranking. You can go best to first or worst to first, however you want to do it.
I think I'm gonna go worst to first.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna Morbius. It seems like we're all putting Morbius.
I think we have to agree on that.
We do, and I don't. Yeah, exactly. Especially after all these movies, Jesus Christ. And I'm wondering if partially that isn't because we just watched it and just spent an hour talking about how bad it was. That could play a role. And I haven't seen the other ones in quite a bit. But so Morbius is last for me. And then I think next I'm going to go New Mutants. I'm having a hard time with New Mutants and Wonder Woman 1984. Those two are a little bit interchangeable for me. That's a tough one because I honestly liked there was a lot that I liked about New Mutants in like the first half. I thought was okay. The second half really fell apart for me. That's where things got really bad because I was watching it and I was like, okay, all right, this isn't a great movie, but I'm enjoying it. This is not too bad. I like these characters. I like what we're getting to see. And then the second half, I was completely checked out and was like, this is garbage. Wonder Woman, there were some nuggets of okay stuff in there. I think that the relationship between Wonder Woman and I've already forgotten his name, Chris Pine, was
Steve Trevor. Yeah,
Steve Trevor. Thank you. My favorite part of that movie, honestly, that was the best part, and the rest of it was just rough. So those two are kind of interchangeables. Maybe Morbius, New Mutants, Wonder Woman, only because Wonder Woman had a better budget, so I guess it had better CGI and stuff. Then Venom 2, because as much as I disliked a lot of things in Venom 2, it was still a good time. And then Venom. And most of what I liked about Venom is how fun it was, and they really did nail the dynamic between Venom and Eddie Brock, and I really liked what they did with that and that relationship, and the fact that it was actually genuinely funny. The comedy that they tried to put in there, I enjoyed. So I think that's my ranking.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's very similar. We've got a few lists. I'm not going to go through too many of them, but Dominicus Saxon, I think this is funny. Venom is his number one. New Mutants, he never saw it, but it's still his second choice. Then Wonder Woman 84, Venom 2, and Morbius. Our pal Cami Egan, Venom, New Mutants, Venom 2, WW84, Morbius. And she adds this. I was so disappointed in Wonder Woman 84. I wanted to see more Cheetah. The relationship between Cheetah and Wonder Woman was lame. And what was the point of bringing Steve back? I mean, you wanted to put Chris Pine in your movie. They set up Cheetah well. And then there's like a point in that movie. That's another one of those movies where it's set up really well. I will fight people that the Ben Affleck Daredevil, the first act is actually not bad.
I got to rewatch that.
Really falls apart after that. But they set up a good movie. And Wonder Woman 84, the setup isn't that bad. when she starts flying, I'm like, what is this? You know, like they had already lost me by that point. And Pedro Pascal, I remember what I said at the time was, please put the helmet back on. Just enough already. I don't need to see you as anything else. This is what I want. This is what I want out of my Pedro Pascal.
And I love Pedro Pascal. I love him so much. He's so nice and he's so great. But that was not his fault.
And you know, this talk about Venom reminded me the final point I want to make about Morbius. It goes back to the trailer. There's a joke in the trailer, and the joke is not in the movie.
The one good thing that could have been about the movie.
Yeah. You remember it now that I mention it, right?
Yes, Dr. Michael Morbius at your service.
Yeah, he's like, I'm Venom. Just kidding. I'm Dr. Michael Morbius at your... And then I was like, well, why did you take it? Like, if you take out the I'm Venom part, fine. Why do you leave the I'm Venom part in?
Really stupid.
Take out the joke.
It was really stupid.
Yeah.
Would have been the one funny thing that was said in that entire movie.
Yeah.
What I loved, that conversation must have been amazing because they obviously had it in there for a while. Then last second, they're like, oh, you know what? That's really screwing up this film.
Yeah.
Like if we lose that, I think we saved the movie.
Yeah. Let's cut out the scene we filmed of Michael Keaton in prison and we'll make him do another one. Poor Michael Keaton, by the way. You think he's like, wait, I was in Morbius? Really? It's like,
pulling a fucking Gwyneth Paltrow. She's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's right. Because I guess they film a lot of her stuff close together. It's sort of like how they would do like 5 Stan Lee cameos in like a 2-week span. And she's like, that was in a Spider-Man movie? It's like, yeah.
Waking up after a bender and looking at your phone to see what you did last night. It's the same thing.
And look, we know what Gwyneth Paltrow's candles smell like. I don't want to know what her cell phone smells like. But anyway, on that note, thank you for
if it vibrates, we know what it smells like.
She used to be married to Chris Martin from Coldplay, so clearly whatever it smells like, it's yellow. Our guest has been Xia Anderson, Bastille Day. And Xia, I went through a lot of plugs for you, but I want you to sell yourself to the people in more ways than one. There's one way you can literally sell yourself to the people.
You can literally buy me as a human. I'm just kidding. Subscribe. I will sell you pieces of my hair. I should actually be doing that, really. No, subscribe to my OnlyFans. There's a lot of good content up there. The Unqualified Experts there's a lot of naked content, you know, the usual stuff there. But Unqualified Experts does go up a week early there. So if you also like my podcast, you can see it a week early there, and then it'll be out on YouTube the following Saturday. Chrissy Mayer was the last guest. It was very fun. We had a good time. She came out. I enjoyed that a lot. Chip Jefferson podcast is up on YouTube. He also has a Patreon that you can get it a week early. Then there is, of course, It's Eric Nagel. And my Twitch stream, I just consumed a ridiculous amount of food last night. I made chocolate mochi cake with peanut butter frosting, and holy shit, it was good. It was awesome from Trader Joe's for a box mix too. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. Nice. It was so fucking good.
Happening.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then what else? Is there anything else?
Well, there's this show that you're on with our mutual friend.
Chip. I said Chip. Did I say Chip?
It's Eric Nickel.
Oh, I said that too. I did.
Oh, you said it?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Eric's got it. Yeah.
I'm listening to her. Why aren't you, Christian?
I was trying to because I was reading the chat, but mostly I was trying to catch you and not plugging E-Rock's show. But yeah, and
I did.
And a couple of times I've been on It's Eric Nagel with Xia, but usually I'm on because you say no. Or, you have something that comes up. But yeah, and you look, I mean, and follow Xia at Xia_land, because I'm finding out all the time, like, oh, you guest hosted for Chrissy Mayer. You were on that Jameson show with Don Jameson, which clearly the fact that we have both been guests on that show tells me that Don has a lot of trouble. Don has a lot of trouble getting guests on that show.
Bad taste in guests.
But I am going to be there in studio in May, so maybe I'll see if I can drag you along with me. We'll talk about that off the air. We'll see if you want to hang out and talk metal. You know,
in the same studio again.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm gonna book myself on Unqualified Experts as well. So even if like Florentine wants to do it again, I'm like, great, I'll record after Florentine. It's fine. Anyway, so you can find all of that, the world of Xia. Obviously, people that are watching our Marvel show, they remember Xia from all, and I mean all underlined, all of the Marvel content that we used to do for AfterBuzz and Popcorn Talk, and the many, many Blackcasts that you were on. You're actually in the official announce that I had someone record the open that I had our friend Farad Muhammad record for the Blackcast, because you were on so often at that point. And yeah, and our friend Lindsay Floyd, who I used to do the podcast with, she's in the open too, and she's been on like once in like 2 years now. So
I miss Lindsay. She's a sweet cow.
I'll clip that out for her, because she always loved you, and when you moved away, she was like, "Great, there's that could have been my new friend." So we hung out.
We did hang out. Did she come with us to get cookies one time? Or no, we went to, she did, right? And we went out.
Z and I have the same, like a birthday, like a week apart. So we threw ourselves a birthday party, and the only person that wanted to come was Lindsay. So the three of us hung out.
Right. Yeah.
We hung out at Busby's. And Eric, I didn't know you yet. So you're a, oh, no, I didn't meet you. I was gonna say you're a quarantine friend, but I actually didn't meet you in the quarantine. I remember we met at we got together at the Starbucks right around the corner from here.
No cookies were shared, but lots of memories.
But then the last time I saw you, you tried to kill me with COVID, so I haven't seen you in a while.
Oh, no.
We went to the Dodger game.
I wish he was kidding. I invited Christian to join me and some of my in-laws for a Dodgers game, and then I had to call him the next day and go, "Hey, I found out my sister-in-law has COVID." So there was truly no such thing as a free ticket, because that was the price of admission, was a near death experiance. So that we both.
Well, then I almost would say thank you, but you didn't quite finish the job.
You didn't finish the job. Yeah, she Michael Morbius to me,
Right, DC actually paid me to get you with the disease.
And like, what? I'm sorry to go back in. I know we're closing up, but what in the hell did he go back and do to Martine at the end of that movie, where she's like going to be a vampire now or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even establish that he could turn someone into a vampire, and then she has that look
with one drop of blood coming.
The one drop of blood, and I was just like, oh man. And I'm
didn't
like,
she have red eyes? Where the fuck did that come from? Did they show us that they had red eyes at any point?
The next, as soon as we end the show, the next hour is going to be me texting both of you. And what about this thing that I forgot about?
Right.
Because I just wanted to. I just want to close the book on Morbius. What were you going to say?
I'll just one more thing then.
Please.
One of the bodyguards. Remember, I think I texted you about this, Christian. One of them looked like Charles Grodin with muscles, and I couldn't get past that.
I did
and in
not
case you don't know Charles Grodin, he was the one who dated Miss Piggy in The Great Muppet Caper and broke her heart. Most importantly, more than any of his other work he ever did. That was
the first time it happens, you'll know. That's the song from The Great Muppet Caper. I have it in my head right now. And I wish I could pretend that I'd watched it recently with my kids. I haven't.
Yeah, right. I could still sing way too much of Muppets Take a Nap.
So the
part of the brain I probably need for something, but there it is.
Sam Whitfield will be happy to hang out with me anytime, and Cami Egan would hang out with all of us. So that's the good people we have here.
From the Burbank.
Yeah. But in any case, Eric, where can people find you?
I'm hanging out on Twitter and Instagram, Count Eric Connor. So stop by and say hello. It'd be nice to see you. We'll have cookies.
And you can always find Eric with me, Marvel Movie Talk, Wednesdays on the Blackcast YouTube channel. As I said earlier, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be continuing our weekly review of Moon Knight, so join us for that this week. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. Please subscribe to Blackcast YouTube channel. And as I mentioned earlier, I will be on Geekscape tonight talking about a much more fun movie, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So that is all the time we have for now. Thanks again to Eric, and thanks again to Xia. We will see you next time. As the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!